Microsoft just released earnings, and Xbox hit an important milestone. Microsoft earnings are out today, and pretty much across the board, they smashed through all their expectations, reporting just a healthy growth across every single key business segment. But Xbox is what we're going to talk about, so Xbox is what we're going to dive into. And Microsoft actually hit a really important milestone, but first, the numbers. Xbox gaming revenue grew 22%, and Xbox content and services revenue grew 30%. And an important point here is it says it was driven by third-party titles, Game Pass subscriptions, and first-party titles. Something missing that has been in just about every Xbox earnings release for the past couple years is no specific mention of a third-party title. Now, they don't ever call out Fortnite, but they would say, hey, a specific third-party title drove revenue up. They are not talking about Fortnite for the first time in several quarter releases. So that's a pretty big deal for Microsoft, especially seeing that it grew. Now, in more specific numbers, the quarter, Microsoft brought in revenue terms about $3.1 billion in revenue. That's a healthy sum of money coming in through the door for its Xbox-related services. More specifically, gaming revenue increased $550 million year over year, or 22%, as I mentioned earlier, driven by increase in Xbox content and services, offset in part by a decrease in Xbox hardware. No surprise there. Absolutely at the end of a next generation. I mean, the new consoles launch next month, and so their hardware sales are declining, and that trend is very quickly going to be turning around here. And they also said Xbox content and services revenue increased $649 million, or about 30%, driven by growth in third-party titles, Game Pass subscription, and first-party titles. So that's $649 million year over year increase. And so what that means is comparing this quarter to the same quarter of last year. And then on the hardware side, Microsoft said hardware declined 27%, driven by a decrease in volume of consoles sold ahead of new consoles launch. Now, the reason why this is such a big quarter for Microsoft is that this is going to be the last milestone marker that we have in terms of numbers before the new consoles launch. Sometime in January, well, I should say late January, we will get new Xbox sales figures, and that will be the first time we can compare them to the new console launch. So this is a milestone that we're going to be comparing to for many, many years ahead about how Microsoft has grown during the next generation console launch of the Xbox Series X and the S. Unfortunately, one of the annoying things that Microsoft is doing now, they're not really telling us their subscription numbers. They used to tell us Xbox Live user numbers, and they didn't even tell us Game Pass numbers. So it's hard to judge that growth right now because Microsoft is just no longer providing those numbers, which, it's really frustrating as an outsider, and it's got to be frustrating for investors. I mean, Microsoft is spending $7.5 billion on Bethesda, and Microsoft doesn't give really detailed analytics about certain segments. That being said, the company posted, I think it was $37.2 billion in revenue. So Xbox brought in around 10% or so, give or take. Actually a little less than 10% of the total revenue for the company. So it's technically probably not material, but I digress. It would be nice if Microsoft shared those numbers. They do share them for like Office 365, but just not Xbox yet. That being said, if Game Pass does really become huge, which Microsoft is really betting on, then they would have to start reporting those numbers every quarter, or at least in percentage growth for Game Pass subscribers. So we will see how that goes out. But these are numbers that we need to keep in mind. Around $3.1 billion for the summer quarter. Remember, Microsoft works on fiscal year ending June 30th, which means this is their Q1, what we would what everyone else would consider Q3 of the year. And Q4 is looking like it's going to be a blockbuster year for Microsoft from the Xbox org, at least from revenues, because I believe this might have been the highest revenue generating quarter, or if not actually is, or is very close for the Xbox org in many, many, many years, probably ever, to be honest. So Microsoft is rolling into next generation on a revenue high note. They're spending big. They're hoping, big expectations for Game Pass for the years ahead. But this is a video I'm going to be watching quite a bit myself just to get these numbers out again. So just keep that in mind. Around 3.1 billion, a 22% increase year over year for gaming revenue, and 30% on the services side of 649 million. So these are important numbers that are going to be the basis for the growth for the coming future of the next generation stuff on Xbox. Overall, pretty dang healthy. Microsoft is attributing that, hey, a lot of people are staying at home, and so a lot of people right now are choosing gaming-related services to fill that void of quite literally everything. Can't go on vacation? Might as well fire up the Xbox. Can't go out with my friends to the bar? Might as well fire up the Xbox. That is the benefit that Microsoft is getting during the pandemic, and so yeah, here we are. Microsoft posting healthy numbers for Xbox. We will see what next quarter brings, but this is the foundation.